Well, hello and welcome everyone. Welcome back to another episode or webisode of Table Talk with DCC, the Dental Codeology Consortium. I'm Shavonne, one of your DCC directors, and I am here today with our most wonderful, amazing leader, teacher. I can't put enough in front of that to express how much gratitude we have for you, Kathy. So I'm here today with our leader, Kathy Forbes. Say hello.
Hello.
So we're really excited to be back. We hope that you enjoyed last month's webisode. We do invite you to go back and check out that table talk where we discussed and went into some pretty good detail of the three acronyms that everybody is always hearing us talk about, and that is CDT, CMC, and DCC. So please, if you're not a member of our Facebook group, please check us out, Dental Codeology Consortium. And pretty soon we will be having a YouTube channel up, so it will be easier for you to find these table talks. So today, Kathy, can you kind of give a just brief synopsis, if you don't mind, of where we left off on our last webisode and what we plan to cover today?
Absolutely. That was so much fun. We do throw our acronyms around: CDT, CMC, DCC, all those kinds of things. CDT stands for Current Dental Terminology. That's the playbook we go by as hygienists when we need to pick up a procedure and have a particular code that goes with it. So Current Dental Terminology is the book. We've got, I'm not sure if you can see the current one. It's a little, too much reflection. That's okay. It's CDT 2022, 2022, and most offices should have that, and that's the playbook by which you pick out the procedures that you're doing. And those are the things that we as a consortium are trying to improve and bring current data and try and make submissions that's more relevant. CMC.
And how long have we been trying to do this?
Oh, we've been involved for about 7 years now. 7 years. We've been minimally successful in getting specific codes passed, but we have been very successful in helping other and writing supporting testimony for other codes that other organizations or other people have put forward. So we've been able to really have a big impact in that direction. And actually being seated at the table of the Code Maintenance Committee, which is the next acronym, CMC. Those are the 24 representatives of specialty groups that meet once a year to determine which codes will be accepted, revised, or deleted. And so our group has been at those meetings in March for about the last 7 years. Other members like Patty DeCangi has been at those meetings as the only hygienist for many years before that. So our goal is to be present, to provide testimony and knowledge if asked. And ultimately, we would like to see a dental hygienist actually appointed to the Code Maintenance Committee, and that's one of our goals as a consortium. The third one is DCC. That's just our group. It's gone through, it started out as an ADHA task force, but then it morphed into a different titles trying to find what landed, and ultimately Dental Codeology Consortium, or DCC is a whole lot easier to say, is what we came up with. And even though last month's table talk was almost 30 minutes long, it went really fast because we go into so much detail and provide, and it was an interchange. It wasn't just a lecture. We had directors asking questions. And so if you're unfamiliar with the DCC, it's a great place to start. Today, we're going to be working forward into, there's actually, when you make a submission, a form you have to fill out. And it can be rather intimidating at first. The first time I filled one out was about 7 years ago. And it was like, and because they're very specific on questions. So we wanted to do like a real quick but thorough tutorial of what it is to fill out the form. So if any of you maybe wanted to make a submission on your own, which you can, here's a tutorial on how to complete it.
Right. I think it's a great next step from last week's topic.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever you're ready, Kathy, please take it away.
Here we go. And we're going to call this the anatomy of a CDT code action request form. And there's a little guy trying to decide, where do I put my box? How do you fill it in? How do you do that? And it's not moving forward. There we go. Yeah, there we go. Good old technology. The actual form is 3 pages long, and I'm going to go through each page and kind of dissect it in detail, so you have kind of an idea of how that works. When completing the submission, you'll find there are really specifics that the ADA is looking for. Arial font size 10. They review your spelling and grammar, so you may not always be able to rely on spell check. Make sure all the sections are complete. They will send it back to you if you don't have everything written in it. Submit a signed ADA copyright assignment agreement. What you're saying is that you're going to be submitting language that you're giving the copyright to the ADA, because the ADA, all those codes are a copyrighted document, and they must be submitted in unprotected MS Word format, which almost all of us do anyway by default. So if we take a look at page 1, this is a blank form, and I'm going to break it down into the top and the bottom half. Like I said, all those cells will expand as you write in the information, but it's important to understand and be very specific. I know the first few times I've submitted, I've left a cell off, or I didn't put enough information, or they didn't like how it was written and they would send it back. And even up until last year, I've been doing this 7 years, and they send it back because I needed to revise it. So it's not that it's a bad thing if they send it back, but if you can, the more you can be specific when you fill this out, the better. So if we look at the top half, this is where you would fill in the information for the person that's the contact person, like for this. And I'm going to be using it as an example of what our organization did for this, a code for this last one. Notice date submitted. The date is November 1st, but we end up asking for it to be turned in from our work groups early so we can modify them, format them, make sure they're right on track. So for example, this is one of them we sent last year. Our name is DentalCodeology Consortium, which tells them we represent a group. We're just not an individual. And I was the point person and have been the point person. And then appears the date submitted. Now our group shoots to have everything done, written into me by October 15th. And then I'll go through and see if there's any additions or corrections or anything that needs to be done, so we can get it off a week before it's actually due, because it's due on November 1st. So we like to get it there early before everybody else does, so we get feedback as to, is it complete? Do you need anything else? What can we do to help them make sure that our submission goes through?
And Kathy, I wanted to add and encourage that if any viewers today are not a part of our Facebook study group, to please find us and join, because we do also post the submissions to our group to get feedback before we send in the final submissions.
Absolutely, absolutely. This is the bottom half. This is a little more the nitty-gritty. One of the things they look for is, do we represent just ourselves, or is there other organizations that represent us? And for example, when our group sent through submissions to change the 0150, 0120, 0180, those evaluation codes, to make an oral cancer eval a must. Up until our organization made submissions, it was always, you didn't have to do it, it was a may be done. We felt it strong enough, and the ADA agreed, that now 0150, 0120, 0180 has to have an oral cancer evaluation completed. When we did this, we actually were able to mark the box yes, because the Oral Cancer Foundation supported those submissions. So anytime you can get an organization of some sort, or a specialty group, or even someone who is recognized as an expert in the area of that particular procedure code, you get a yes, and those names go on there. It's kind of like when you send a bill through the legislature, one particular legislator sponsors it, but they get all these other people to sign on to it. So it's that same kind of thing. The next is that, does the requester identity, does our consortium receive any financial benefit? And I will tell you, we receive nothing. We are a total volunteer organization down to the directors. We aren't getting a penny from anybody. So they want to know, and the biggest reason for this is if some manufacturing company was promoting a product, they wanted to know if the speaker was being paid to make a presentation, and that would be a yes if they were there.
And Kathy, is this part a make it or break it?
No. If you had a financial benefit, they just want disclosure. They want transparency. I've seen them take, where the product, the manufacturer, it was the one I'm thinking of, it was some type of product for partials. It wasn't a plastics, it wasn't a metal, it was something else. And the person that was representing the company made the presentation, and of course he's being paid by the companies, and it didn't make any difference. They just want transparency. Now, this is just to remind everybody that makes a submission, you have to send that copyright assignment agreement. All these forms are on the ADA website. You just plug them in. And this is saying as a contact information, my name is on it, and I attest that everything is that I've read everything, that I'm doing everything the way it's supposed to be done. So it's just to kind of trigger, oh yes, I've got to do that. Page 2, this is kind of the guts of it. And I'm going to break it down into the top and the top part and the middle part and the end part. Notice there's a nomenclature and a descriptor. Nomenclature is the name. And so to amend or revise an existing code, they've got these boxes across the top. And you either check whether you're adding a new or revising or deleting. If you're revising, you have to put over here what code you're suggesting to be revised. So for example, this is one where we were revising, attempting to revise the 1110 code. We've done that every year and trying to make it a more relevant and current definition, but it hasn't made it through yet. But this is what it looked like when we submitted it. And they're very specific here. When you add a new code, everything's in blue, so it's pretty easy to see. But if it's revising a current, you underline what's new in blue lines with an underline under it, and anything you want to delete, red with a strike through, unchanged text in black. And if you have delete an entire one, then it would be totally red. But we wanted to add the word oral to prophylaxis, adult, and we wanted it to be disruption of oral biofilm and removal of plaque, calculus, and stains from the two structures. And we wanted to be more specific to fixed prosthetics, which includes implants. In the permanent, and we wanted to see and transitional dentition taken out, because transitional is both in this 1110 and the 1120, which get really confusing, not only for clinicians, but more so for the insurance carriers when you've got a mixed or transitional dentition. So this is what it would look like if you're going to revise. You're going to have a lot of colors. And if they're a very long descriptor. The thing to remember is that the nomenclature is about the only thing that ever shows up in a software program. So when you're doing your treatment notes or your progress notes and you pull it over, but it doesn't have the descriptor, and realize descriptors can change. And if you don't keep up on them, you might put a code in that's not, doesn't accurately describe the procedures that you're doing. So I wish that somewhere that the software program could include descriptors for some of these, but as clinicians, we need to every October, November, when the new book comes out for the next year, pull it to see if the descriptors made any big changes. And I will tell you, if you're part of our Facebook group, we're posting these so that if you don't have time to look it up right after the March meeting, we know in April what those are going to be. So always remember, only the nomenclature is what's in the software programs, not the descriptor.
That's a great point, Kathy.
This one, rationale, your persuasive argument. Now, the rest of this has to do if you're going to do deletions, and I'm not going to go into that right now, but this is just your rationale for the request. And I encourage you to keep it short, sweet, bulleted, not, 3-page long paragraphs when you're doing this. So when we did our oral prophylaxis, we wanted to make it easy. We actually bold and color things that we want to have the CMC take a look at the members, because
we're trying to bring it to more modern dentistry where we are starting to recognize biofilm.
Yep.
And bring some of the terminology up to date.
Yeah, even Esther Wilkins' new book is entitled Soft Deposits, Biofilm Calculus and Stains. No mention of the word plaque. They keep insisting on wanting the word plaque in there. And we want to remove transitional, so it would, since it's already included in 1120. But basically what happened is they rejected this, just for those who are going, well, what happened to it? Their rationale for rejecting is there is no change to the manner in which these procedures are delivered. An adult patient may have both permanent and transitional. These are long-standing, well-understood codes. So even though we keep coming back trying to even show that the AAP had a different term for it, they wanted to leave it as it is. So, but the rationale short and sweet, to the point. Now, the next section, completing, if you're doing a new code, you fill out all of this, but we're only making a revision, right? So all we do is mark that we're going to revise and put the code. So we don't have to put a procedure technical description or a clinical scenario because we already know what that is. Page 3, this is where you can do any additional documentation. Now, if you've gotten permission from authors of research articles to reprint their articles, they would be attached here and listed here. We found that it was probably easier to just put the site and the reference. And if a member of the committee wants to look it up, they can look it up themselves. But remember, as I said, if they've got, last time they had 85 codes times 3 pages minimum, that's 250 to 300 pages to read. And then you think they'll read articles on top. So we found we keep it simple for them. And so we put material submitted, no. In other words, we didn't submit any of these articles, but down below we've listed where you can find them. Like from the AAP, we took out of their glossary of terms. So we give them the specifics so they don't have to go look it up unless they want to. So to create a new procedure code, this is one where all you do is add new, and then remember I said it's all in blue in terms of the title, implants maintenance without the removal of prosthesis, which includes cleansing and all accessible aspects of the system. And we've submitted numerous implant maintenance procedures over the last few years, and they've tended to reject them, saying they can go into different categories. Like D6080 reminded them that it was removal of the prosthesis, but not all patients need to have it removed. In fact, the American College of Prosthodontics said, no, you shouldn't remove some of these. So we tried to get them more current. It was difficult. Their rationale for not accepting this was current CDT codes 1110 and 4910 are available to report this service, as the descriptors both indicate that these procedures are applicable to both natural teeth and implants. So
which is a huge something that I disagree with hugely from my perspective, especially being a dental hygienist in a setting where I mostly care for patients with full arch. It's just not fair to try to put them into the same category. I do support the prophylaxis code as it relates to a mixed dentition, where you have somebody who has natural teeth, maybe some single implant crowns, maybe some bridges. But for the full arch patient, it is a different procedure from start to finish. So I look forward to the day where we will be able to get this passed, because it seems we've been submitting this code probably for like the last 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like, 1 year the orthodontic group was interested. The American Academy of Periodontology usually has interest. So I think that we will get closer. It's important for people to have the right procedure codes to be able to submit so that we're not practicing unintentional insurance fraud.
Mhm. That's it, exactly. So we kept the rationale short and very colorful. Then being a new code, of course, we were able to, again, make a technical description that was simple enough to understand with actual pictures. I really think we all like the visual perspective also, that picture there is not an adult trophy. So we're going to keep working on it, In fact, this next session for March of 2023, one of our 5 work groups is going to deal with implant maintenance again, and we're going to keep trying to move it through. The American Academy of Periodontology has tried to work with implant codes, and for a couple of years, we're not making headway. They made a little headway last year. So it's just a slow process, but we're going to keep plugging along here. Again, we did not submit any documentation other than their statement from the American College of Prosthodontists that said you shouldn't remove it. So again, we try and keep it simple. Here's another example of a procedure code that started out rather wordy. And but everybody on the CMC was agreeing that we needed some type of salivary assessment code. And they kind of, as we as a consortium looked, and this should be under descriptor, it just needed to be rewritten. Their rationale, when you look at this, we went, well, it looks good, but I wish it wasn't all one paragraph. I don't know about you, but this looks like a lot to read. If they could make bullet points more, I think it's easier, but it still gives all the information that you need. The technical description, again, talks about how it does in a clinical scenario for a new patient. And then the references.
That is something that you recommend, Kathy.
Excuse me.
That is something that you recommend, is to bullet point.
I really think so. Think about if you had to read 300 pages of this. I mean, I think the bullet points are, my personal opinion, easier to read, easier to talk to and defend when you're if you give testimony, because it's easier to refer them. If you had to refer them to some place within a paragraph, it's really tough. It's really tough. So again, the supporting documentation, they kept it slow. So they kept it simple, like we've been talking about. And as it amended, it came across much better after it was about 30 minutes of wordsmithing, that the actual nomenclature, assessment of salivary flow, and then a all-encompassing procedural descriptor. So that was how we did it. So this whole PowerPoint is just meant to be an intro to how you can complete it. For those of you, if you want to, if you're going to find yourself, well, I want to submit one on my own, fine. If you have questions, you can contact me. My email is in the Facebook page listing. We've listed all the codes we're going to be looking at for this next session, but my email's there. You can, if you have a question, I'd be happy to help you walk through this. I've done that with a number of organizations, in fact, fixed pros kinds of products on how to fill these forms out. So that is our little infomercial, if you will, on the anatomy of a CDT code action request form. Hopefully it gives you a little more insight as to what the directors and the work groups do to work together to make sure this is a synced and form to be able to submit. Okay.
Great. Yes, Kathy, thank you so much. It's a wonderful way to demonstrate to our colleagues how we work for free.
Yes.
A smile on our face. No, but we really, we love what we do, and we want to make a difference. Thank you again for the important work that you are leading in the DCC, and we look forward to next year. And we will keep these webisodes going. You want to share, Kathy, kind of what we have planned for? We have
all sorts of, we're going to get into a little more meaty topics. I mean, these last two have been more informational, but we often get asked a lot of questions through the DCC. And actually, I monitor their Facebook pages, and coding questions come up all the time. One of the things that we're probably going to do soon, and maybe the next month, is coding ethics. what do you do when you submit a 4910 and the insurance carrier says, no, they won't cover it. You resubmit it as 1110. Should you?
Right. And that has been a question among, in our profession.
Oh, for decades.
For years. Is alternating between prophylaxis and periodontal.
Yeah.
So
and
we're going to have. Yep. Go ahead. Sorry, Kat.
Got that one? No, that's okay. Definitely, the topic of lasers has come into play. The big submissions have been made about lasers, and the CMC comes back and says what's the procedure, not the tool you're going to do to use it. So, trying to spin that down into what are we using the laser for? It isn't a laser code. There will never, I can tell you, never be a laser code. But the procedure that a laser accomplishes can become a code with its submissions. And we're definitely going to be working on that for this next go around. So lasers in dentistry.
Another hot topic are the lasers.
Definitely.
And implants, more conversation around implants because we are in desperate need of more procedure codes to support what it is that we're actually doing.
Yep. So those are just a few of the things coming down the pipe for tabletop.
Yes. And if you have any ideas, please share in the comment section below. Let us know what you would like to hear us talk about more. If you have any questions. And we just hope that you are enjoying, that you're finding this informational or informative, I should say, and that you can actually take back to practice and apply. So we look forward to seeing you next month for another table talk with your DCC directors. Until then, have a great day, everyone. All right.